time. Don't always be praying in response. Pray proactively. Pray before it happens. Lord, cover my child. Lord, bless my day.
Develop your relationship with God with this dynamic teaching on CD or DVD when you write to us. Visit our website or call 1-800-591-8480.
Well, praise the Lord, everybody. Welcome to On Point, the number one Saturday morning Christian-based call-in talk show in America, live every Saturday morning on any smart device at David G. Evans, the number one, at David G. Evans 1. We're so glad you've taken the time to join us. Won't you like us and subscribe to us? But share with all the people that follow you and that you're friends with right now. Tag a few people. Invite them to join the conversation that we have every Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time here on Point. It's such a joy for us to get together with you again to talk about those things that are significant to you, but always from a kingdom perspective, always from a biblical mindset, always from a Christ-centered look. We are just glad you can join us, glad we can talk about any subject, and we talk about all the subjects that are relevant to you. Events, faith, of course, the Bible, politics, sports, current events that impact your life, every day of your life, but always with that biblical mindset to give us that kingdom center in the events and the situations that we discuss. If you can join us today, you can call us by phone, toll free around the world, 866-743-8267. That's 866-743-8267. That's 866-74-EVANS. Give us a call here on Point. Our co-host, Reverend Nichols Smith, is with us today. We're so glad to see you. What's happening, man?
Good.
A lot going on, man.
Yeah, I shouldn't have watched that video.
Well,
I watched part of it.
I was tempted like 3 times, and then I thought, maybe I would have something different than a historic reaction, so I didn't watch it because I understand this one is, I don't want to say more graphic, but there's something in this one from what I'm hearing.
It was a personal.
Okay.
I only watched it because I wanted to know what we were going to talk about today.
Okay.
So you didn't have to watch it. I only watched 2 clips of it.
Yeah.
Not the whole thing.
Okay.
Actually, just another one this morning before we came.
Okay.
But again, I just wanted to make sure.
Familiar.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff out, but I was hearing what I thought were opposites until I realized what people were describing to me was the entirety of the video that caught their attention the most.
Yes.
Because I initially heard that they had tased him to a point where he died.
No.
Well, no, they didn't just tase him. Then I heard he was beaten. So I thought those two were contradictory, but I realized they were parts of the same scenario.
What the way the video was you have three or four separate shots because it started out with them pulling him over for some reason.
Okay.
They don't know why yet.
Okay.
So they pull him over and they're aggressive from the door.
Okay.
I mean, from the door, cussing at him, get out the car. They try to tackle him down, hold him down. He eventually,
Why does he need to be tackled for a traffic stop?
See, that's what they don't know why they even.
Well, here's my thing. So, all right, say they pulled him over for a traffic stop. Not a known felon. He didn't get out the car shooting. He didn't get out the car swinging, as far as I'm concerned. So how does a traffic stop develop into a murder, a homicide? That for me is the tell-all.
That's the question because the body cam starts with them approaching his car, opening the door.
Okay. But why would they go up and open his door?
But that's what we're trying to. That's what they're trying to figure out. I guess during trial.
I understand he was not far from his home.
No, he wasn't far from his home at all. This is what I'm saying. This felt personal. So the guy, he runs away. Mm-hmm. Then it flips.
This is after they beat him up?
No, this is after they get him out the car. So they get him out the car. They're trying to wrestle him down, hold him down.
How'd he get free?
They were trying to get him down. He said, "Okay, I'm complying," and they kept, this was aggressive. They kept forcing him.
So they were banging him,
and then he got away.
Okay.
Then they show to a street cam one of the high ups ones.
Yeah.
Down. So this one, you see him laying on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
One guy comes and kicks him in the head. Another guy takes his baton out, hits him. Now, this is the most heinous part. This is the part where when they say it's one of the worst things.
Okay.
They pick him up. Two of them do. Hold him up.
Yeah.
And like a piñata, let the other ones just beat him up. That's what I think, to me, hit me the hardest, is the fact that you, like, literally, they had him back like this.
Yeah.
Two of them were holding him. And they were just wailing on him.
Is he cuffed at this point?
He might have been, but all you can see from it, because it's real high up view, you can't really see.
Perhaps you can help me understand.
Yeah.
When I saw the initial pictures of the officers, I saw people that looked rather healthy, heavy, all to be over 200 pounds. I think some of them looked to me 230, 225. Young men. I've yet to figure out why it takes 4 or 5 grown men with guns and other weapons at their disposal, 5 of them, to take down one guy that looked to me like he weighed about 145 pounds.
He was around 140, 150 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at him like, this guy's really slim. Why does it take 5 of these guys to knock him, to restrain him?
Yeah. There was an aggressiveness from the door that was just troubling to see.
Was he fighting back?
No, he wasn't even hitting back. He was kind of struggling, I guess, at the beginning when they were trying to get him down.
Okay.
I guess he was like panicking and,
Okay.
But the fact that how they just held him up and let the other ones just beat him up.
Well, take me back to the traffic stop. I'm going to be afraid if you pull me over and the first thing you do is snatch me out of my car.
Yeah. Get out the car, open the door, Again, we don't see what
I thought
that.
it was license and registration first was the standard approach.
Yeah. Yes. Again, we don't see what happened before.
Okay.
But and actually in the video, you hear them like laughing about it. I mean,
you mean while it's going on?
Yeah, like cursing at them.
Now, I understand at some point there were like 9 or 10 people out there?
Yeah, so this is the third part I just saw this morning. So the guy, I keep saying the guy, Tyree Nichols is laying on the ground. The EMTs are there.
Yeah.
They're doing nothing to help him. They're just kind of just sitting around, walking around. They tried to help him up, but they beat him,
Here's it's been a long time since I've been involved in a bunch of fighting and stuff. My life was like that a long time ago. I remember enough to know that my initial acts of violence were not like the violence that I was rendering once I stopped. It grew over time. And it grew over time because I was, quote unquote, getting away with it over and over again.
Sure.
Because I was winning over and over again. So it grew. It didn't diminish.
Yeah.
It grew.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to believe that this particular act is an initial act, that is something that has culminated over time, that some forms of this have happened over and over again, with the tacit approval of the powers that be in Memphis.
Well, come to find out, one of the police officers has a record of abuse. Either I think, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, he worked at a jail and I think he had some issues there. When he was
how'd he get hired then?
Well, he was a prison guard.
Okay.
Had issues there.
Okay.
And then so this is not new for one of them, from what we're hearing.
Okay, so it makes sense that they've had some unspoken permission to be this rough in the past, and maybe perhaps this time is the only time that we know of them actually causing a homicide.
Yes. Now, I'll give the chief of police of Memphis credit.
Yes.
Black woman.
Yeah.
They fired them within 2 weeks.
How old is this?
This is it happened 3 weeks ago.
Huh?
Yeah. So I guess once it got up to the higher ups and he died and all stuff, they fired him, charged him. That brings up a whole nother discussion.
His family's been waiting 3 weeks for something to happen?
Like 2 or 3 weeks, yeah. Because he went to the hospital, and I think 2 or 3 days later he died.
But the fact that he was hospitalized from a traffic stop should have been enough to...
Yeah.
So, how do I get to hospitalize you? and walk around keeping my job.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's where, you know, I don't know the Memphis Police Department, how they work and how big it is or small it is, but she came out, they fired him, they charged him, 4 posted bail. I think 2 of them was 3 of them had a $250,000 bail.
Okay.
Other 2 had a $350,000.
Are there limits on bails that you can charge a police officer when involved in this type of thing?
That I don't know. I know they have that whole immunity thing, but I need to see.
Because I know that the bail was a question for me, why it wasn't higher.
Mm-hmm.
Have the government administration in Memphis reacted this swiftly in the past to other officers that have been in this type of situation?
This is my first time hearing about it in Memphis.
Okay,
like to this degree.
I really would like to know whether this is a consistent Memphis reaction, or whether, because it can't be the first time someone's killed in an interaction with police.
Mm-hmm.
How quickly has this caused a decision to be made in the past? And because I tend to emotionally shy away from these things, because I lived them back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how consistent this reaction is.
Yeah. I mean, this is the other thing that's being brought up, and it's got to go here because it's true.
Okay.
These black officers
Mm-hmm.
were arrested faster than any other officer that doesn't look like them.
Okay.
Everybody else, you remember?
That's part of my question.
You hear about this months later.
Yeah.
The Blue Lives Matter crowd is quiet. They ain't saying nothing. You know,
They're usually up in arms.
You got to support our police. And
Yeah.
it's just a real deal. If it was a white officer, we've seen it take months, sometimes even years to even charge the person.
Right.
But I think it's a sister in charge of this.
Okay.
So I think she's being very aggressive with.
I still ask the same question: how consistent is this reaction with the other historic reactions of the Memphis mayor's office, chief of police, that type of thing?
We need to. I need to do some research on that. Maybe somebody from Memphis can tell us.
Yeah, perhaps somebody's listening. 866-743-8267. 866-743-8267. This is On Point. We want you to give us a call as we weigh in on a very sensitive subject this morning. For the first time since we've been on air, I was hoping there was a way for our tech team to run this video. I was hoping that today, I didn't know if they could download it quickly or whatever, that we could run this thing so people that haven't seen it would be able to see it on their device.
Some people, I don't know.
They're watching it on TV.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with showing what's already out there to a certain degree, but this seems to be egregious enough, serious enough, him impacting enough that but I'm also glad that we've not gotten to the point where we've kind of become callous to this type of thing. There's still a level of reaction, and I'm also glad that it hasn't, for black people, become racial. That they're reacting just as strongly to this particular incident when non-black officers are involved. Yeah.
I mean, look, you've known this, we've seen this. This is a police problem.
Yeah.
For a lot of things.
Yeah.
When John Singleton did Boys in the Hood, those who didn't see it, one of the biggest issues with they got pulled over were black officers. He was trying to show us that this was a police problem in general.
Yeah, not a color problem.
Now when there's some aspects may be a color problem on top of the police problem, but it's
here's what's amazing to me.
It's
the officers that are black and brown. Almost adopt a mindset that it's all blue. They're not white, black, and brown officers in the police force. It's all blue. Until something like this happens. And people are reminded that even though they're in a context, there's difference in the context. You know, I find it. It is not loyal. It is not disloyal to an organization for you not to become a menace to your own community. I got a problem with that. All right, if I'm from the projects, which I used to be, and I get to be a police officer, am I trying to prove something by being extra brutal to the people that I used to live with? You know, and it happens corporately too. You know, you know, back in the day when it was less, when corporate environments were less populated by people of color, you would almost find a hostility from the resident person of color to new people coming in, to the point didn't want to eat lunch with them, didn't want to be seen talking to them. You know, almost like, you know, you're diluting my identity by being present. Yep. And and as someone that was a forerunner in a lot of corporate environments, I made an effort to be inclusive. Not, I don't want the rest of the crowd to see me talking to you. Yeah. You know, but it's almost like we get this. What's that indoctrination after you get kidnapped?
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, Stockholm syndrome, and you start to believe you're a part of the people that are actually that have oppressed you. But I don't see how these guys became so young. Wait a minute, weren't we talking about this yesterday? About young black men becoming detached from their own history based on what? That they didn't have to go through what others had gone through? Yeah.
Or they think they got out, so I'm better than you.
Yeah.
Remember a few years ago, I think it was like 4 or 5 cops from Philly were arrested for helping them sell drugs, you know, assault and some other stuff. I mean, you're supposed to be working in West Philly to fix the community, and you're participating in the demise of
the economic opportunity can distort your integrity. But I still have a problem with the fact, and I don't want to be redundant, but I'm about to be, that if I come from your community and I become an officer, why do I persecute your community more aggressively? Am I trying to prove, is there some way that I'm trying to prove that I'm not going to be biased? Yeah. Well, that's certainly not the way to do it.
Right. Yeah. And this, I made it, y'all, you know, I get a police officer's job is very difficult. Be very stressful.
Extraordinarily so. And they don't get paid enough.
They don't get paid enough. I totally agree with you. I'm not one of those abolish the police.
No. That was just dumb. That agenda was stupid.
I know. But the statistics show that there are some officers out there who are violent towards their wives because the stress of the job, and they take it home, and
they blame it on the job.
Yeah.
It ain't just the job.
I know it's not just. If you can't be in this kind of work, don't get in this work.
Hangmen back in the day didn't go home and hang their families.
Right.
Come on, man.
Right.
Come on.
No, I agree with you.
Come on.
It just, if you can't handle the stress of the work because of whatever's going on inside of you, then.
But also, I know from talking, having pastored, we've pastored. They don't just call them prison guards. What's the proper name for them?
Come on.
Correction officers.
Correction officers. Yeah, there you go.
Correction officers. That one of the struggles is not becoming influenced by the environment that you're assigned to. Yep. And one of the corrections officers that I've talked to, had the honor to talk to over the years, said that what you have to really fight is not having your whole attitude change towards society. Yeah. Because you're in that environment 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, sometimes when there's no help, 12 hours a day, 18 hours a day. And they said one of the hardest things to do is not let your whole attitude about the world be impacted by the fact that you work in that environment every day.
And this is where that bring up a larger issue. Our prison environments are like jungles because we're not looking to reform people. We're looking to just imprison them, make it hard. They did a comparison with Europe and a couple other places. The prison person in charge of the prison, the warden, said, look, you're going to be in here for a little while. We want to get you guys back on track just in case you move into my neighborhood, you'll be a good citizen. If you look at the difference between the two, you can see why their system works versus ours. If you, the guy from the Central Park 5, he said the things I had to do to survive in prison changed me. Which tells you about the environments that our prison systems are.
You're talking about for the worse.
Yeah, for the worse.
Okay.
It changed it for the worse because
Yeah.
in order to survive in there,
Yeah.
he had to do some stuff
You have to change the way you see things.
Yeah. And to keep people in solitary confinement for months on a time and inadequate stuff,
Well, one of the reasons that we can't rehabilitate people in American prisons is economic. Because I don't think there is the ratio of inmates to officers. I think is negligible. I think if trouble breaks out, the number of inmates versus the number of officers makes it an untenable situation. So for me, part of the problem with rehabilitation is the minimal amount of supervision that we can provide. Because they have a hard time protecting cooperative prisoners from uncooperative prisoners.
Yeah.
That things are happening that if it's not a riot, they're not going to it.
Yeah.
So they're allowing people to get personally injured and hurt, and trying to keep a level of peace that's not peace at all when you're outside.
No. And let's be real here. They're trying to keep people in prison as long as they can for money and create a system where if you get out, guess what? You're going to come back.
Well, it's a big money maker, and repeated offenders help continue the resource stream. So, yeah.
And if people knew how many corporate businesses are invested in prisons, oh man, you own prisons, they.
The next thing I'm waiting for is a mutual fund based upon the prison system, or some kind of public traded stock.
There actually is a mutual fund.
Okay.
No, that was for fines and stuff and warrants. I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. They had those bonds or whatever they're called set up for that.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, they started mutual funds and investment funds placed around strip clubs and liquor stores, that type of thing, and that stuff went through the roof during the pandemic.
No, I do think that some prisons do have stocks. Let me look it up though.
Okay. Now, 866-743-8267, 866-743-8267. We've got Tom from Florida. You guys can jump on. I know you have a lot to say this morning. We'd love to hear your opinion about this.
They do have prison stocks.
Do they?
Yes. People have stocks in companies that own prisons, yeah.
Okay. I'm not surprised. We'll if they'll make a dime out of the cross if they can, Try to tell you something. Let's go to Tom. Good morning, Tom. How you doing?
Good morning, Bishop. How you doing, Pastor Nick?
Hey, man. I knew you would have a lot to say today.
Well, Bishop, first as you were asking about the 5 officers, it's kind of funny that they got fired or handled so quickly.
Yeah, I know.
The other thing was, the reason I don't think it was really in the news a whole lot until this past week is that they announced that Friday they were going to release the tapes, and everybody was kind of waiting for that. I think that's why it hit the news so heavy yesterday and not 3 weeks ago.
So it took them 3 weeks to kind of analyze the tapes, make sure they
had to get it from all the different angles.
Analyze it, and they also said that was the best time they thought they could release it with the least problem with riots and other things in the city.
Because I'm confessing, I've been in the dark about this until the last couple of days when it really hit the news.
Yep.
In a very profound way. You hear things. You hear, young man gets killed, but we're hearing that all the time.
Yeah. And they prepared the people, like I think the DOJ and a couple other people saw it. And said, look, this is one of the worst things we saw. Okay. Just preparing people, like, look, it's not going to be easy to see, but we need to be civilized after we see it.
Yeah. I have a lot of it's not anger. I feel for the people's family.
Yeah.
Your child leaves home to go someplace. On his way home, and never makes it back. I mean, I wonder the stress level of his relatives as they waited to see if something was going to be done. I'm also tragically sad about how these 5 young men veered so far off to whatever direction is the wrong direction, and this behavior became increasingly acceptable to them. No one, and this may be a statement that I shouldn't make, but no one will convince me that this time out was the first time that this was. You know, I can't get that.
Yeah, this felt personal.
And I also believe that the swiftness of what happened is because they were of African American descent, which I think they were wrong. Should never happen. But it's almost surprising how quick the unions haven't come up to back these guys up.
They're not being supported by the union?
It's been quiet.
I haven't heard anything come up from Blue Lives.
Blue Lives is not saying anything?
It's been quiet. It's been quiet.
Because we've got officers around us.
I don't want to get on the wrong side saying they're wrong, but they aren't getting treated the same as other folk.
You don't think so?
No, these guys have been convicted already.
I'm being rhetorical.
Their own people haven't come up to, defend them.
I'm telling you, I'm just speculating. And this is just pattern recognition and maybe wisdom at the age that I am. But I think the young men are about to find out that things are not the same. But I also think the rapidity of the response has to do with who's in office in Memphis right now. So I understand the chief of police is a black woman. Is how's the political administration look?
Let me see.
All right, so normally, I would believe in normal city politics, the chief would be either saying, okay, let's do this, or offering some resistance to the administration, because in back in the day when I was a younger person, the police chief almost was embarrassingly loyal to the police, and was always would appear to be in opposition to any discipline that the mayor wanted to render to the police officers. So the political, there had to be some real strong political conversations between the mayor and the police chief, and the district attorney and the police chief, because of course he or she has to be seen as someone who's loyal to the people that she leads.
The mayor's a Democrat. He's white. He's white, but he's a Democrat.
Okay.
So, like I said, she's black. So it seems like they had to me, the way they talked about it when the video was come out, they had no way of getting around it.
Okay.
There was no public way for them to.
Well, because normally there's a contextual conversation.
There was no.
Okay.
Holding somebody up while letting people punch them, there's no context to.
No.
Yeah.
And I believe she absolutely made the correct decision.
Oh yeah.
It's just that I'm wondering why so quickly, and it hasn't happened like that with other folk. But yeah, she absolutely made the right decision.
Well, I think a lot of times what is offensive to me is that, when someone is suspended with pay while their whole process, works out. But I also, the system is not fair. We need to accept the fact that the system does not respond in an equal manner to everyone. There's a false equivalency that has been established, and you don't find it out until you get into trouble. That it is a false equivalency. But what else is happening in Florida?
I have to think
besides your governor wanting to eliminate certain ethnicities from history. Right. What's going on with that?
Well, I have to thank you, Bishop, because I call in the show, and this guy gives me a reason. Sometimes I think I'm not going to be relevant. I said, you know what? The governor's making me relevant. So Saturday morning, I can get on the radio.
There was something I forgot to put on here, that a school in Florida, they made the kids go home and get a permission slip signed to learn the Black National Anthem. So if the parents didn't want the children to learn the anthem, they wouldn't sign off on it.
So the other thing is,
so what we're going to do? The kids were going to stay home that day?
Either stay home or the teacher.
You guys go to the assembly hall until we get done learning the song? But
he was in Philly this week.
Ooh, who's in Philly this week?
Oh, the governor. He was at the
Union League?
Yeah.
Oh.
Their highest award.
Oh.
That's not surprising.
When I heard this was going, because, ladies and gentlemen, I've been a member of the Union League for the past 12 or 13 years. When I heard that he was possibly going to be honored, I called a friend of mine who didn't call me back, and then I forgot about it. He was at the league this weekend?
And got his award.
Yeah. He has. He was at the Chiefs game last week, and them folk like him. That's the crazy part. They were cheering him, like he's walking around waving at people. I don't know what the. Well, I know what the appeal is. Never mind. Sorry, but you.
Yeah, I was amazed, but there were a lot of people who came out, and Bishop. I'm not going to know this lady's name, but Pastor Nick may know. Alicia, Azeala Banks.
Oh, Azalea Banks. Well, she's crazy, yeah.
What does she say?
She comes out and says this week.
What doesn't she say?
She'd rather move to Florida because of the governor, because it's such a safe state compared to California.
She is.
Okay.
She's got other issues.
I'm still stuck on the fact that my club had. I want to see what the. We don't have a whole lot of minority members at the club, but I want to see how we react to this. He was actually there.
Yeah, they gave him the highest award. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, there were people in the street though. If you see a news clip, there were people out protesting.
Okay. I have to be honest. It took a few years, but some people have revealed themselves to me at the club to be extraordinarily good, and some have exposed themselves to be people that were presenting a persona that was not their real personality until President Trump got in office, and then all of a sudden, our conversations began to change.
Yep, I'm sure.
Okay. Interesting. He was at the Union League. Okay.
Something else he's doing here is, which I think is going to backfire.
They didn't call and invite me to that.
Oh, of course not.
Okay. Yeah.
No.
I wasn't asked to do a prayer that day.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Something else he did this past week, which is the opposite of the rest of the country, is this thing with the fentanyl. Like in Philadelphia, they've kind of decriminalized it, or at least they're not arresting people. He wants the state to charge people with possession just like people who are distributors. He's going after the fentanyl people, which that's a double-edged sword. I think it's going to backfire on him.
You think so?
Because there are a lot of Caucasians, kids, who are using it compared to African Americans. That doesn't seem to be the drug of choice for black folk compared to other drugs. But he's going after the fentanyl.
He's projecting. He's projecting a bias in that, in a lot of people's minds, the drug problem is a minority problem, and that people that are not minorities are simply recreational, or they've got some kind of emotional, psychological excuse for why they do the drugs. So he would approach it as though it was a minority problem, when in actuality, I think it right now it's got that glamour drug kind of persona attached to it, and a lot of white children will die from this. Fentanyl is bad all the way around. It's just not something that our young kids need to be involved in. But we were addicted to going too fast in the car. The new generation is addicted to living too fast, and it has both had its dangers, and both could end up in fatalities.
And going back to the minority thing or whatever, it still falls under that woke left, because that's exactly in his everything he does points that direction.
Okay.
Even if it's not out. In code word, it's still the woke left that he's going after. And, you know, he always says at the end of his speeches, the woke left does not live in Florida.
Okay.
And that puts a whole lot of things in that category.
Okay. Wow. It's never a dull moment in your state, huh?
No, it's not. And other than the weather, Bishop, I don't know why he gets away with it. I mean, Board of Education, he kicks people off, puts his own people on.
Well,
we talk about elected.
He gets away because you guys let him. You guys don't scream. Well, screaming won't do anything. When it comes time,
going after him now.
Are they going after him now?
Yeah, they're especially in Southern Florida, because it's two different states. And once you get above Palm Beach, it's very Republican. But when you get in the South, other than Miami Cubans, it's pretty Democratic.
It's amazing how you know, New Jersey and Florida have these great similarities, because you know, I used to joke at board meetings when I would go to North Jersey for the Turnpike Commission and other things. I would always introduce myself as Bishop David Evans from the great state of Southern New Jersey, and of course it would get a laugh, but it was the truth that there's a great separation between North and South. And you know, the further north you get, the more Republican you get. The further south you get, the more Democrat you get.
Same thing here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you get up in the Panhandle, it's like another state. I mean, you know, you butt up against Mississippi and Alabama, and that influence is right there.
And the Cuban population is very, very powerful in the Newark, northern New Jersey region of the state. They're
Wow.
extremely political. Hispanic, Cuban, very strong. Puerto Rican, very strong influence in the northern part of the state.
Well, Miami is run all the elected officials. It's very, like I said, I'm angry at us as being Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
When Trump was running, he understood, stayed in Miami, where Biden kind of ignored it. I think Hillary ignored it when she was running.
Well, Hillary ignored New Jersey, which is one of the reasons she lost. And I said something to her and her team in Philadelphia. We were at Mother Bethel Church for a meeting, and I said to her team, I said, you guys are making a mistake. Why aren't you doing more in New Jersey? And they said to me, well, we don't think it's a battleground state. I said, how much more battleground do you have to get? It's a Democratic, quote-unquote, Democratic state with a Republican governor. I said, so if it's the Republican governor, doesn't mean we got a fight on our hands. You guys are not looking at the right thing. Oh, we'll take it under consideration. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They had the convention in Philly and still ignored New Jersey, which is 20 minutes across the bridge. It's crazy. Crazy, but you know, they pay people to tell them how to do things. They also pay people to tell them how to lose.
Yeah.
But thank you, Tom, man.
Hey, happy birthday, Bishop.
Thank you so much, man.
Hey, take care.
Bye. Yeah. Going to Robin, 866-743-8267, 866-743-8267. This is On Point. You still have time to call and talk to us. We'd love to have a conversation with you about the hot topics of the day. Hey, Robin, how are you?
Good morning, Bishop. I'm Pastor Nick. How y'all doing?
You ever notice how sweet she sounds on the phone? You just,
then
the
real her comes out eventually.
I'm not sure she's giving us the real Robin here, but you know, because I know there's more than one side to her.
Right. Now y'all know me for 18 years.
That's
y'all
right.
Know I'm sweet.
Yeah. What'd you say?
Y'all know me for 18 years.
Yeah.
Going on 19.
Okay, then you can leave the last part of that sentence out. Yeah. Okay. What's happening this morning?
Well, I just had 2 comments and a quick question. I watched the video. I know I couldn't watch all of it because the first part just didn't make sense to me. They telling him to get on the ground. He's on the ground. They still hollering. Well, first when they went to the car, they started cussing at him, saying, get out the car. They threw him on the ground. And he's saying, I'm on the ground. I'm on the ground. They had the tasers out but didn't use them. And then they showed where he got away, and they got him. They was just beating him up. I mean, it's that video. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, Bishop. And I know when you see it, I know how you would feel. But
Yeah, I ain't watching.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. But Pastor Nick can maybe verify this. I was reading something where it says fatalities caused by the police. Norway takes 3 years of training, 4 killed from 2002 to 2018. Finland takes 3 years, 7 killed from 2000 to 2018. Germany takes 2 years, 267 killed since 1990. USA takes 21 weeks, 1,004 killed in 2019 alone. So I know Pastor Nick confirmed that, but when I read that, I'm like, wow, what's that say about our country? 21 weeks?
It's not trying to change a culture, that's for sure. It's not addressing the real issues. It actually is perpetuating.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can, unless there's continuing training that we are, that's part of our job to attend and to show the results of the training. I'm not sure we can change a culture of anything with just 21 weeks of preparation.
Yeah, but what do you think it's going to take to get the police reform and trained correctly in our country?
Well, I used to, when it comes to violence, I used to think that children being killed was enough for our society to cause a seismic shift in the way we do things. But we found out with the children from Connecticut that even children being killed won't cause our politicians to move in the direction that they need to move as it relates to gun violence. And so that the kids are not even enough impetus anymore to cause radical change. So I really don't know what it's going to take unless it comes from a federal level and time starts being distributed like they distribute it for other normal citizens who get caught up in things. But there's a resistant system that is benefiting a relative few people, that to change it, because where there's crime, there will be people in law enforcement that benefit from that. And I'm saying that there are some people that do that. And I've had police officers in my family. I had an uncle that was relatively famous in Philadelphia as an officer on the street. He was rough, but he was just. So, and it was back in the day when Rizzo and those guys were around. But he didn't terrorize his own community, but he demanded respect in his own community. But he wasn't walking around just brutalizing folk. So I just.
Yeah, it's just that I'm concerned, like our children, as they're growing up. Hopefully, something to be a lot better, because I'll be nervous my grandchildren driving and get pulled over. I'm just hoping, by the time they get to that age, things will change.
Well, I think the environment is. The one time I've been pulled over with my kids in the car, with my grandkids in the car. The level of fear that they had was surprising to me. The first thing out of Chan's mouth was, "Is he going to hurt you, Dad?" Raina was, "I'm scared." I said, "What are you all afraid of?" "He's not going to hurt you, is he?" I said, "No, he's not going to hurt me." But the guy was standing there with his hand on his gun. So I'm staying calm, because not just because of me, but because of them. And what I understand is police officers are not trained to prevent as much as they're trained to react.
That's why they need training.
So a lot of times their mindset is to react to a thing. So they may not be as attuned at this may be a bad situation unless they're on some kind of assignment. But they're most of their action is reaction. "Man, we can't do anything until this happens. Or get the restraining order, and if he does this, then we can react." It's a kind of a reactive, not a. We call them guardians, but I'm not sure that mindset is there. I think it's more of a reactive.
You saw that with the Paul Pelosi video. Did you watch it?
No.
I watched that too.
That one, watch it, and you'll see they show the part where the police come. He opens the door. The police are there. The guy has the hammer, and he's like, "What's going on?"
The assailant has the hammer?
The assailant has the hammer. Paul Pelosi's holding on the hammer with the guy.
Okay.
And the police are like, "What's going on?" Drop the hammer, and the guy says no, grabs it, and then goes to hit Paul Pelosi with it. So
again?
The first time. They show the whole thing.
Wait a minute. I was under the impression that most of the hitting happened before the police got to the house.
Paul Pelosi, I don't know. Paul Pelosi was at the front door with the guy holding the hammer, and he looked like, lucid. Like there was no blood, no damage.
Well, how did he get hit in the head so many times with the police standing in the house?
That's what I wanted to know.
That's the thing with the video. The guy grabs the hammer, hits him with it, like twice, and then the police come in there and try to grab him. My first thought was, and I know people say may bring stuff to race. If you or I was holding up a white man with a hammer,
wouldn't have been no question. Wouldn't have been no question.
The guns would have came out from the door.
Would not have been a question.
The guns would have came out from the door.
Would not have been a question.
It wouldn't have been put the hammer down.
No, not all that. The hammer was a weapon. All right,
Watch it. You'll see.
Yeah, watch the video. But the question I have, Bishop, I'm hang up. Have you ever thought of getting your books put on audio?
One of them is on audio.
Yeah. Which one?
Dare to Be
I think Dare to Be a Man's on audio.
Okay, I mean, your other ones. I mean, I know you're probably coming out with some other books. Oh, and y'all had promised me y'all was going to start a relation book together. I watched the old OnPointe.
We did.
That was from years ago. Have y'all started yet?
I'm glad you remember, because we don't.
I don't remember none of that.
Yeah, because I had asked and you was like, that would be a nice thing. That's
I know we talked about doing a teen version of Heal Without Scars.
Yeah.
I know we talked about that, but I don't recall the relationship book. That would be good, though.
That would, because wise and younger wise.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you guys.
All right, man.
And
Talk to you,
Bishop, for having OnPointe, because that way we get the truth and what's going on. So appreciate you.
Absolutely, the whole
y'all
truth.
Have a blessed
Nothing but the
rest of your
truth.
day.
Talk to you now. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
We've got Lucy, Alden, PA. Man, Alden. Hi, Lucy. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Welcome to OnPointe.
Good morning.
First of all, thank you. Happy birthday to you, Bishop.
Thank you.
Quickly, because I know time is winding up. What I wanted to talk about was the shooting or the in Memphis. I saw an interesting interview yesterday on CBS News. It was with Mr. Alfred Titus, the professor, an adjunct professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice.
Okay.
And he was saying that the 5 officers are part of a 50-person unit.
Yes.
In Memphis called Scorpion.
Yes.
And that it was created, I guess, in fall of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about how much money has been confiscated and guns and everything, and how they present themselves in unmarked cars and plainclothesmen and stuff, and stop people for a minor traffic incident, and then that's when they go into whatever they're doing.
Okay.
So Mr. Titus was saying, after, this is before the video came out, he said, I would not doubt that either the guy, Mr. Nichols, was probably driving a car that was dark or tinted or something that alerted them to stop him, but that did not give them the right to do what they did once they stopped him.
Okay.
So what the chief of police was saying, that he thinks that people in that type of unit need to have more training. If they're going to do stuff like that, maybe every 30 days, 45 days, whatever, they need to do training to decompress, what's going on within them, instead of ramping up doing all kinds of stuff that resulted in the death of Mr. Nichols. And
the other thing, I think you can get used to blurring the lines of what is legal and what is appropriate.
Right, and that's why she was talking about excess training.
Yeah, and I think that, every major police department has an internal affairs situation that investigates improprieties by police officers. So there has to have been, for this unit to operate, and sometimes the means justify the ends in certain situations. There has to be a kind of relaxing of the restraints and the rules, so that the law can apprehend the criminal. But I think sometimes, and I'm not a proponent of that whole slippery slope nonsense, because I think that, if something's wrong or you make a decision one time, it doesn't mean you have to make the same decision over and over again. So I think that slippery
Right.
slope logic is silly. But the reality is that sometimes for these units to be the most effective, historically you'll find that the lines have been blurred as to what's right and what's wrong. And sometimes the mean justifies the end. So I just, I go back to my original statement. It's hard for me to believe that these acts of violence that we just witnessed concerning Tyree Nichols, this was their first time doing something like this. It doesn't feel like the first time at the rodeo.
Yeah, well, I totally agree. I couldn't look at it. I mean, it just takes me back. It makes my spirit very uncomfortable.
I haven't watched it.
I haven't watched it.
Yeah. Based on what I know about myself, I couldn't.
Me too. And the Pelosi, neither. I couldn't look at that either.
Yeah, I didn't.
Some people really kind of get off on that. Oh, I can't wait to see it,
No.
But I just can't. That troubles my spirit.
Because the news gave me an entirely different perspective. I thought, Mr. Pelosi was rumbling for his life. He was able to he called when he felt like somebody was breaking in. He had to start fighting for his life, and then the police had to come and gain entrance to the house. But Pastor Nick is telling me he goes to the door and he's mid-struggle with the guy with the hammer.
You see, that's what I thought too. Because they showed a glass pane that was broken that the guy supposedly come through on the news.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, you have to really ask. You have to ask questions to yourself, logical questions to yourself when you're reading anything, whether it's social media, printed media, or watching it on TV. You have to ask yourself questions because the presentation is part of the appeal of these things. Right. So you got to ask yourself, these questions because, here I am thinking this thing happened in an entirely different way.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Well, thank you for calling us, Lucy.
Okay, well, it's nice to hear you, boys.
Good to hear yours. I'll talk to you soon.
Mr. 71-year-old.
Yeah, girl. What you talking about?
Welcome.
Thank you for the welcome.
All right, take care, guys.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We've got maybe 4 minutes. What were we going to say, Pastor Nick?
She did bring up something I think is important, too. I know before, police officers, any type of therapy, any type of help was looked down upon. Mm-hmm. But I think this is why therapists need to go through therapy before they become therapists.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people in therapy that actually needed therapy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they encourage them to go and do it.
It's almost like they think their craziness qualifies them to be therapists.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. I know a lot of troubled people that think their call is therapy. A lot of them.
I know.
Okay.
While they encourage them to get therapy, pastors need pastors. Mm-hmm. Police need to maybe once a year go see somebody to talk to kind of unravel some of that stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a stressful.
Yeah. Every day.
Yeah.
It's like being a soldier in wartime. Yeah. In wartime, it's 24 hours a day. Just because you go home from work doesn't mean that the emotional threat is gone completely, because you're getting away from it for a moment, but then you've got to suit up and go back into it the next day.
Yeah. And our brains aren't built to be on that level of stress and that level of, not all the time.
There are very few people that can go through that unscathed.
Yeah.
That's why I think you got to have God in your life if you're doing some kind of stressful situation. You can't do it without the Lord's help.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate people find that out after they have a break.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. If I had my faith at the time, I could have made it. I could have handled the emotional weight. Yep. Because God is certainly somebody to talk to.
Yeah, He is.
Well, we're coming up on the end of the program. We want to invite all of you to join us tomorrow for our virtual service at 8 a.m. and our live service at 11 a.m. That's right, live here in the building at 11 a.m. We're inviting all of you to come. Our midweek Bible studies, we're having an incredible time as we have not only been consecrating anointing oil for our people over the past 2 or 3 Wednesdays, but also we've been decreeing the word over their lives for 2023 to increase the faith, but also to open the eyes of expectation so that they would know what God intends to do in this new wave of glory. He wants to reset you. He wants to reignite you. He wants to restore. Restoration is a part of what God's plan is for you in 2023. But you've got to be reset first. So we're inviting you to come Watch us tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. virtually, and invited you to come personally and be with us at 11 a.m. People are driving in from all over. We had a couple from Maryland last week and a few more from outside the state. Our midweek Bible study at 7 o'clock. We're having a tremendous time. We want you to get involved in that. If you have a prayer request, always we'd love to agree with you in prayer. You need to email that to social@go2bethany.com. We're on YouTube, and we're on our own site, BBC of NJ. That's BBC of NJ. You can subscribe to us at David G. Evans 1 and BBC of NJ on YouTube. But also, we've got some podcast platforms we'd like to invite you to subscribe to: DGEMS, DGEMS, and OnPointe. Those are our podcast platforms. We want you to join us for great conversations, great content, things we believe will help your life. Well, for Pastor Nicholas Smith, I'm Bishop David G. Evans, and our technical team on their behalf also. But I thank you for joining us on the #1 Saturday morning Christian-based call-in talk show in America. Stay strong, stay safe. See you tomorrow. And remember, faith acts like a thing is so, even when it's not so, that it might be so. God bless you, and see you next time.